Hello, live community, confidant community. Do you remember this one? Do you? It's really me digging in the crate. Now, I'm here with my co-pilot. Welcome back, Jin Lee.
Thank you,
Do you
Jackie.
even know this song? You're millennial, elder millennial, Gen Z,
Yeah, millennial.
millennial. Do you remember the song?
This sounds really familiar, Jackie. I'm looking it up. It's released in 1987, so probably not around when the song was released, but it sounds really familiar.
It's all right. Confidant community, help out our co-pilot, my co-pilot here for our live series. Ask Us Anything. It's what is it? Live community, confidant community. Do you remember this one? I've had the time of my life. Oh my goodness. So I can't believe you don't remember this song, Jen. You're not that young. It's like Jennifer Warnes, Joe Cocker. Like, I've had the time of my life. This was very big in the 80s. If you ever saw, did you ever see the movie Dirty Dancing? It's all about Dirty Dancing.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I remember Dirty Dancing, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name. He was so amazing. He was such a great dancer. He's been in so many great movies, and of course, my midlife memory loss is kicking in, so I can't remember the guy's name. But I can just see Jennifer. I can't remember her name either. All these people from Dirty Dancing. Guys, confidant community, help me out. Who were the stars of Dirty Dancing? I'm trying to help our millennial advisor here.
I got an answer for you, Jackie.
No. You know what? Because I know somebody in the confidant. I trust our confidant community. I know they know. Anyway, the song was "I've Had the Time of My Life" with Joe Cocker and Jennifer Warnes. It was such an oldie but a goodie, and I thought it would be a great way to start our live today. As you can see, my co-pilot Jin Lee is on for this live because it is the Ask Us Anything part of our series. And as you know, you've been following this live. It's all about making financial conversations accessible. And so today is no different. Today, we want to talk about living your best life, which is why I was playing Joe Cocker and now I can't remember the woman's Jennifer Warnes. I can't remember her name, but anyway, it just came back to me, thankfully. Why I wanted to play I've Had the Time of My Life, because we love talking to clients about them having the time of their lives, living their best lives, actually. And I was actually thinking about this as I prepared for this live. I thought, the summer went really quickly. Does anybody out there feel like our summer went really, really fast? I feel like we started summer in early June, and then all of a sudden here we are back to school. And I think sometimes that can be the really great mystery, the exquisite mystery of life, and sometimes the downfall of life. If you don't set intentions about what you want living your best life to look like, that it very much can just slip through your fingers. It can happen really, really fast. So we have these amazing conversations, Jen and I, with clients when we talk to them about living their best lives. So I'm excited to talk about some of the conversations we have. Maybe it'll inspire you, confidant community, to think about how you want to live your own best life. Now, are you ready, Jen, to start talking about this today?
I'm ready, yeah.
Well, let's talk about some clients, for example, who may want to retire as early as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have any stories in mind? We've worked with quite a few clients. Jen, you've been with me. You know how horrible I am with anniversaries. Over a year and something.
Over a year, almost 2 years now. 2 years.
Almost 2 years. Oh my gosh. Do you see how fast things go? Anyway, he's been with me almost 2 years. Thank God. Jen's so much better at these anniversary things. I'm such a dude sometimes. Anyway, all of this to say that we've now worked with quite a few clients together. So I know you have a lot of stories you can share. So you're up, Jen. Share some of those stories of clients that we've talked to in retirement who want to live their best lives.
Mm-hmm. As you can imagine, we get a lot of clients who want to retire as early as they can. But why not, right? If you can retire early and really enjoy your time, who would hate that, right? So there are particular clients that's coming to my mind right now. So they're clients in their 40s, both earning pretty good income, but in a high pressure job. They were looking to retire as soon as possible. and they wanted to know when they can retire.
Right.
And so what we did with financial planning is based on how much they're saving right now and what their
Right.
existing net worth is, we are really able to show them what the earliest age they can retire was. And they were really happy with the numbers they saw. And later on, they even told us that ever since we did this plan for them, every new year they're looking forward to the new year, knowing that it's just going to be one less year until they reach their retirement.
Yeah, they start counting down, don't they, Jen?
Yeah. They were telling us how they now like their birthdays a lot more than before, and knowing that they are just getting closer and closer to their retirement date. And those are the good scenarios,
Yeah.
good examples on how clients, when they see the numbers, they feel happy about it, and are committed to continue to save and grow their nest egg. But at the same time, there are clients where we show the numbers, but it's not really the number they really like. So
Right.
let's say they wanted to retire 5 years from now, but the numbers tells us they can't really retire for the next 10 years. So that's actually where financial planning can add even more value to clients to help them really figure out what that's going to look like for their best life.
Yeah, Jen, I wanted to stop there because I thought about when you started to have those experiences working with those clients where you had to show them that the numbers and it didn't look as good as you hoped, and how terrified you were when
Oh
you had
yes,
to have those meetings. And what a lesson that was, because what you found out were clients actually knew their scenario. They
yeah,
just wanted confirmation, and they, as you were going to say, what does it look like? What's the alternatives, right?
exactly. Yeah, I still remember that first client where we had to give them the bad news on how the numbers weren't looking so good, and I
Yeah,
just remember how terrified I was telling clients about this number. And like you said, they had this idea on the back of their head. And the reason they came to us just to do a proper reality check to
that's
see
right.
what exactly the numbers tells us
Right.
and the guidance on what they have to do. And
Exactly. So they were actually happy with that because you could talk to them about some trade-offs and some
yeah,
alternatives.
yeah,
And I want to talk about that because I think sometimes when people think, oh my goodness, my scenario might be scary, usually you have a sense of what
mhm,
things look like. This is the you we've dealt with, right? The people we've dealt with, they know when their scenario isn't ideal. What they want though is confirmation of what their scenario is. They're like, yeah, I kind of had a sense, but it's really good to see the number. And the alternatives are kind of looking like, okay, what does retiring later mean? Like, so I can't retire at 60. What age can I retire at?
mhm,
Or it could also be, here's my max budget if I want to still keep my
yeah,
retirement date the same date that I had in my head, even though
mhm,
I wasn't prepared financially the way I want. What lifestyle can I afford with that?
exactly.
And then the other piece of it is, and I'm seeing more and more retirees do this, not just for the income, but for fun too, is what if I work part-time? If I work
Mhm,
part-time and not touch the majority of my assets, how much do I need to earn? How much do I need to earn part-time to still make my retirement work? My retirement, like so
mhm,
I kind of go into semi-retirement before going
exactly.
into retirement, and that actually is an option as well. So it's just trade-offs just mean looking at, how can I increase my savings if I need to save more, if I want to still retire on that date? How can I reduce my spending? That's
Mhm,
another option, or find another means of earning an income. And
mhm,
I think these are all really great like trade-offs that we can look at.
yeah,
And clients love just knowing what their options are. The
mhm,
other piece of that can also be alternatives. And I love
yeah,
alternatives. And I think alternatives are, again, something that people need to understand, that living your best life, alternatives, especially if you get creative, can be fun. They might be a really fun way to find that balance between
yeah,
those trade-offs, right? And I
yeah,
think one of the trade-offs, or one of the ways to be creative, is if we're talking about working part-time, what if a hobby of yours that you have, I know I've met clients who like photography, so they do photography, or they might do social media because they think it's cool. They spend a lot of time on social media anyway.
mhm,
And so, what if you could turn your hobby into that? second stream of income, that retirement income, to help you with those finances and get you into semi-retirement and then retirement. That might be one option. So think about turning your passion into an income stream. The other thing could just be, maybe you're open to learning a new skill, and that can turn into another part-time career. That might be another option. Or even thinking about ways, I find that one of the reasons, even for my clients who do financially well and they can afford to retire, they might take up part-time work because they're thinking, if I'm going to work anyway, might as well earn an income just to socialize, so that you can get an opportunity to, be in front of other people. I know a lot of people over the pandemic really missed those familiar strangers. Were you, Confidant community, one of those people who left your home where there was perfectly good coffee to go out into the streets? There's those streets out there, COVID streets back then, to buy a coffee for $5 a pop or whatever. I'm not judging, I'm just asking. Were you one of those people who bought that $5 coffee just so you could talk to the person, that coffee person, and have a random conversation?
Yeah. For 10 seconds, right? Even if it means for 10 seconds, right?
I was going to say, were you one of those people, Jin? I didn't do it.
No judgment, right?
Exactly. I'm not judging.
I've done it a few times.
But again, I'm not judging. It's don't underestimate the value, especially in retirement, of having those social interactions. They mean so much to our well-being, our mental health. And if you could earn an extra, some income. So if you're working as a barista, just for the social interaction, but it helps pay the bills, don't underestimate the value of all of those things. And so those are a couple of alternatives. Some other alternatives might be, and these are some things we've seen quite a bit, especially in the last year, our clients relocating. So moving to another province. We had some clients who we crunched some numbers. They had a lovely home in Toronto, but they had family that lived out west, and they're like, or out east actually. They're like, we could live our best lives. We could, retire if we moved out there and sold our Toronto home. Are you one of those people? Like, are you in the scenario where you're sitting on a home in Toronto and you're working, and I'm getting these questions more and more from clients, like, is it worth it? Is it, even when I'm making good income, is it worth it to buy a home in Toronto, or I could buy something smaller and retire earlier? Think really deeply about what living your best life means. Some clients are moving to other countries. I don't know if any of you have explored Portugal. I know some of our clients have started to talk to us about moving to places like Portugal because the tax strategies, the taxes there are pretty low. Healthcare is pretty good. So may want to consider, if you haven't thought about it, let's talk about maybe your relocation to Portugal. So, and then another really interesting one I just read about, this isn't one I've seen so much in my practice, but I think I'm going to start seeing more of it as clients get into like the second phase of retirement, where they may be widows. Like, I'm thinking of my female clients who may be widows. I have some of my friends, and we're talking about this, and that's sharing a residence in retirement. Anybody remember? Jin, again, you're the millennial here. Do you remember the Golden Girls? I'm judging now. You should know who the Golden Girls are. If you don't, please go look it up.
I looked it up before the line.
Dee Arthur was the queen. Dee Arthur had the best lines in the Golden Girls. Did you ever see the Golden Girls? No.
I'll be honest, no. But I know about it now.
Oh man. Okay. Well, for those of you out there, I know lots of you guys get it. You guys get it. You know all about the Golden Girls. Sharing residence, sharing food costs, groceries. We know all these things are going up, right? And if you're looking, and social, all the things we were just talking about. So you're living with friends, and I was just mentioning the Golden Girls in your retirement as a way to have all of those things. That's a creative alternative that more and more people are actually looking at.
Yeah,
so Jin, I'm going to turn it over to you for some other versions of living your best life. What do you got?
No, I think you touched a lot of good points. But a few things I wanted to add on is, if you are someone really who wants to really retire as soon as possible, I think it's also worthwhile to think about why you want to retire. right? Is it because you don't like the career you have, or are you just working too much or feeling exhausted? And we had a clients where it was not so much about them not liking their job, but it's just working too much. And you'll be surprised to find out what you can do once you start exploring what the part-time options are like. Jackie, you might remember this client. He wanted to reduce his working time to 80% of what he was
Yes,
working.
of course, I do.
And turns out the employer was willing to pay him the same amount of salary while reducing his working hours. So, yep. And although not everything, I guess, will not be as good as what he got, but you will be surprised to find out what you can do and what you can, like even for career change. If you start pursuing your career, you would be happy to pleasantly surprised to find out what you can do with it.
Yeah, and it's sometimes it's all about just thinking about these things deeply, thinking about what, as you said, Jen, why you want to retire, what you're going to do with the time. This particular client, it was more about him working too much, and it never occurred to him to ask his employer, "Can I work 4 days a week?" Because he's getting closer to retirement, and he's like, they'd rather keep him. So it's important to know what you can actually negotiate. And don't be afraid to open the doors and have those kinds of conversations.
Exactly. And when you are starting to look into all these options, their financial planning can really help you in a way that you can actually start thinking about with the concrete numbers behind it, right? Instead of just thinking about potentially doing something part-time. But once you start doing financial planning, you can start putting numbers behind it and think about stuff like, if I want to retire early and take on the part-time job, how much do I need to earn for a part-time job? And is it feasible if I want to earn this part-time income for the job I want to pursue doing part-time?
Right.
And or if you are someone who's willing to have a trade-off by reducing your expenses during retirement, how much do you need to reduce if you want to retire at the age you want to retire? And all these are something that can help you think about the trade-offs based on the numbers, so you can find a balance that you really feel comfortable and good about.
Yeah, and I think those are really important points, Jen, for people to understand and think about carefully, because then you can kind of fine-tune what living your best life means for you. Like personalize that living your best life. How much do I need to earn for retirement, part-time, if I want to, phase retirement in? Can I look at ways to reduce my expenses and still live a great retirement if I'm truly interested in pulling the trigger and stopping working altogether? And, just kind of sort of thinking again about, if relocation is something, because you may have family in another province, you may have connections in another province. All of these might be reasons to think very carefully about relocation. So really all of this to say, it's important for you to think about what exactly living your best life means to you. And I know Jen's going to go into that. We're going to talk again now about scenarios for people, because we're talking about the future, right? And living your best life is also living your best life now. So I want to talk about an example of a client we spoke with earlier this year, who is still working and isn't anywhere near ready to retire. She's in her 30s. She makes a really good income. And, for her idea of living her best life right now was all about looking at getting out of the rental market and buying a home. I don't know how many of our confidant community is in that scenario right now. If you're like Jen, a millennial, or Gen Z, or even Gen X, you might have felt if you didn't buy a home at a certain point, maybe you've missed the boat, it's gotten too expensive. So we went through that process of looking at what her cash flow would look like if she did end up purchasing a property. And it ended up that it was going to be tight. Like it wasn't going to be enough, even with her good income, with one income, for her to actually compromise the lifestyle she was having now to buy a property. It just didn't end up being worth it to her for what it would cost her in her, lifestyle now and her financial freedom. She's able to put a lot more away for retirement, have a good lifestyle now. So it wasn't really worth it for her. So again, running the numbers, crunching the numbers before getting into a situation you might not be as happy with later was really crucial for her. Now, Jin, I know you have another example you want to bring to the confidant community.
This was a scenario we came across more frequently right during the pandemic and lockdowns. And we had a lot of couples staying in their home, looking at their home, and just like a lot of us, start thinking about renovation or even moving to a bigger home. And they came to us with the situation. And oddly enough, interestingly enough, they were all in a similar situations where they were making good incomes. They were close to paying off their mortgage because they bought their home 10 years or earlier before. Didn't have big mortgage to start with. And they were on their way to retirement. And they wanted to know what it means if they were to go for a large renovations to upgrade their home or getting to move to a bigger home. So with financial planning, what we were able to do was put numbers behind this. So let's say they wanted to do put X amount of money for renovation, and considering the mortgage they need to get to fund the renovation, it ended up showing exactly how many years of more they need to work before they can afford to retire with this mortgage added on. And knowing this, we were able to help find the trade-off between finding a budget, renovation budget they feel good about, and also still retiring not too late. So these are the some of the stuff that can really help clients, especially if you're in a situation like this. And these are meaningful life decisions that can have a big impact in your life.
Yeah, and it's all about striking that balance between living your best life now. Because, I feel like sometimes as financial planners, clients just expect that we're going to talk about the future and retirement. And we recognize the future is important, but now is also important because we never know what's around the corner. So it's really important when we have financial planning conversations, and especially important to our clients, to talk about the future, of course, and giving them a really good understanding of what the future will look like, but also addressing the things that matter to them now, the financial goals, the life goals that matter to them now. How do we put all of those in the plan and strike that balance? Because really, at the end of the day, confidant community, it's really about living your own version of your best life.
Yeah.
Right? Because and not anybody else's version. Like, what do you value versus someone else? You can get a little bit mixed up if you spend too much time on social media in terms of figuring out what's important to you versus what you think should be important to you. And sometimes the truth is, a lot of important life decisions, you can't really quantify those things that you value. You kind of have to think it through, write down, reflect, and then we can look at the numbers. So figure out what you care about. And that's kind of the first part of the financial planning process is let's discuss in detail what you care about and then how finances fit in. Like, how does your financial plan fit into all of that? It's not the other way around. We don't go, let's look at the financial plan and we'll figure out, throw some things in later for your values. No, it starts with what do you value? How would a financial plan add value to the things that you care most deeply about? And then it's, like some of the things we talked about, right? It's retirement. Is it renovations? Is it, figuring out a way for you to have more value in terms of the future you want, having that peace of mind, knowing that your future is taken care of? Is that more important to you than maybe upgrading your lifestyle, getting that extra car? I think once you have those numbers, then you can make those informed decisions. I think sometimes when I talk to clients, and I think you've heard me say this before, confidant community, is I deal with a lot of legal professionals who tell me they never want to retire. They want to die at their desk. But you know what they still value? Knowing the number when they can retire. Not because they have to, because they want to. So they can say, now I'm working 5 years more than I need to. And that's a choice. It's a decision I can make versus have to. People like to do things when they want to versus doing things because they have to.
Yeah, and you never know how your value will change over time too, right? So even if you want to, or someone wants to die on your desk right now, 5 years down the road, it might change.
Yeah, well, anything could happen, right? Like you could have a health issue, or your partner could have a health issue. All of those things could mean your values change, which is why we have to keep updating the financial plan to make sure it's still relevant. It still makes sense based on where you're at, right? And I think that I can't really emphasize enough how important having that stability, because we have a lot of clients too that come to us, and living their best life just means not having to worry, especially as they get to that stage of retirement where they're kind of retirement's around the corner, or it could be in full swing. I had this great conversation today with a client, a potential new client I was talking to, and we were talking about her husband passed away, and she's now in a scenario where she has to look after the investments herself. And I said, well, what do you value? And she said, cruising. And I was like, that's awesome. So what she was saying to me when we got into a longer conversation is her husband handled the finances. She didn't. She's just learning about all those things. But at the same time, she doesn't want to put all of her energy into making all these financial decisions herself. Her value is spending time with her family, trying to figure out how she's going to live her best life on her own. And a part of that is the social aspect and cruising. And she wants her investments to cruise as well, right? She doesn't want to worry about it. She just wants to know she's going to be okay. She's going to be financially comfortable. And that's what she wants from a financial plan. Is that your situation where you just want your financial circumstances to be on cruise control? I love that. and not have to worry about it. If you are that person and you're looking for that peace of mind and you're looking for guidance and talking through these trade-offs, reach out to us, reach out to our team. See if there's ways we can help. You have the opportunity to live your best life. I know Jin has some additional practical pieces he's going to talk about. Jin, have at it, because we talked about values. What else do clients need to think about?
So let's say you're in a situation where you feel like cash flow, looking into your cash flow, it's the biggest priority that's stopping you from enjoying your best life and retiring at the age you want. The practical advice we can give you that you can do yourself right now is starting with doing some budget for yourself.
Yeah.
And see where you're spending most money, and then think about creative ways to reduce the expenses on those areas. So going back to some of the examples Jackie said, if you feel like you're spending too much on your home, if maybe you're paying too much rent or your mortgage is too high, relocating could be an option, or even sharing a home or renting a portion of your home could be an option too.
Right.
And it doesn't also, if you, let's say your food expense is the biggest expense you have and that you're worried about, maybe taking some time to try learning new recipes and making a family activity to do meal preps together during the weekends and turn it into fun activity that you can do with your family.
Yeah, that could take a big dent over Uber, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of Uber Eats, if it's meal prepping with family and getting the family involved. I love that idea, Jin, and just figuring out, looking at your budget really closely to see what's your biggest expense and being creative on how you can cut back. I think are some really great financial strategies that people can use tomorrow to live their best life now and also create that best life for their future.
Mm-hmm.
Any other tips?
Those are the good ones. And also, if you're not sure about how to cut your particular expenses, what I suggest is simply Googling it to see what you can do. And you'll be surprised to see a lot of creative ideas that you can apply and that you like and can actually start using.
100%. We just used a few. I think another really big one is just setting boundaries. I think setting boundaries, I spoke about this when we were talking about overcoming FOMO last month, but setting boundaries I think is important because sometimes you trying to live your best life sometimes social pressures can get in the way. So setting boundaries are important. Saying no if you feel like you're going to be pressured to financially spend more than you feel comfortable with based on your values. Or also suggesting alternatives, like inviting people over if they want to go out to a fancy $150 dinner and you're like, I want to live my best life now and the future. So maybe come over and we'll spend $50 or $60. Those are some ways you can also save some money. Another one I love is buying bulk. I'm just a family of two, and I share a Costco card with my girlfriend, and we just split the Costco, all the Costco bounty, because it's way too much for the two of us, but it ends up being way more affordable if we're splitting a $500 Costco bill to $250. Right? So these are just some ways to help you save. I think the key, just going back, is to just figuring out what you value, figuring out where you can cut back, thinking about the trade-offs. And really, if you're someone who is a worrier, we talked about that stability and peace of mind, but also just thinking about worst case scenarios and working with someone like a planner, someone like us, to help you figure those things out. So if you do, like I said, need help in this area, I see Jody, our team lead, our client experience manager, has already put our information up. Feel free to reach out to us, reach out to our team. Confidant community, we hope you enjoyed the live today on Living Your Best Life. We're hoping all of you are living your best lives. Please feel free to check out next week's lives. We have another session next week where we're going to delve into another area of living your best life. We're going to be talking about living your best life all month long. And we would love for you to post in the chat, share what are some of your values? What are the things you value? We'd love to know. And do you know what it means in dollars? See you next month. See you next week, live community, Confidant community. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. And feel free to share our updates when you get them if you enjoyed this live.